cases led to this? I mean, the timing makes it look like it's a response to what has come out recently regarding this Senator Hutchinson.
Well,
Is it Senator Woods? Was it Senator Files?
Senator A.
If you go back to when I was elected pro tem on the floor of the Senate, I said then that my #1 priority was going to be making changes to the rules to make sure that the integrity of the Senate is protected. And since that day, which was several months ago, we've been working on it with the folks at BLR and Senator Dismay's said, talking to other states. So this isn't a response to any of the incidents that have happened. This is a response to all of them that have happened, not just in the last 2 years or 3 years, but in the last 20 years and 30 years. As I said, I was in the House back here in the late 90s. The exact same thing was going on, some of it even worse. So there's no question that we have some work to do. But this is not a response to this case or that case or this person or that person. This is a response to the fact that time and time again, we continue to have some people make poor decisions, and it's clear we need to establish better guardrails for folks.
Why is it taking this long to establish better guardrails?
You know, I don't know. As Senator Stubblefield said, we've talked about some of these issues before, and one of the things I will tell you that I have learned over the last 2 or 3 months is this is not as simple as just saying we're going to ban this and we're going to stop that. Because if you're not careful, what you do is banning citizen legislators. And so there's been a lot of work over the last 3 months to try to make sure that we bring some guardrails in place that don't make it impossible for good people to participate. So it's hard work, it's complicated work, and as Senator Ingram said, this ethics committee's got a lot of work to do because it needs to be right. So I don't know why it hadn't happened when I was here in the 90s or in the 2000s or the 2010s. We can't control that, but we can control what happens in 2018.
Should there be any retroactive disclosure of things these rules would apply to, say that affected legislation that passed 2 or 3 sessions ago?
Well, again, the rules are the Senate rules. They'll go into effect as soon as they're adopted. Now, obviously, we're not in session, and most of this applies towards your action towards while we're in session. And the first financial disclosure report is due January 31st, which would be 2019. So yeah, they will be in effect, but what's most important, again, is this ethics committee will begin to try to dig deep and make sure that they're done correctly.
You said that you were going to look at some legislation going into the 2019 session. Give some idea of some specifics that you want to look into.
Well, I don't want to start throwing out ideas for the ethics committee. The only thing I will tell you is we can do a lot by Senate rules about the conduct of members of the Senate, but we can't do anything by Senate rules about the conduct of people outside the Senate. That's going to require legislative changes. But just as it's important that we do it right for the Senate rules, it's important that the legislation be done right so we don't, again, make our government unable to operate. So that's what they're going to be asked to do, is to determine what needs to be changed legislatively to control the behavior of those that maybe we can't control by Senate rules.
How is this bill how is this proposal different than the ethics reform bill done by Linda Collins Smith, SB 726, and the other one, Brian King, that were blocked in the last legislative session? How is this proposal different than those?
There's several differences, particularly between this and Senator King's bill. This does not affect employees of legislators. As you can see, we inadvertently got staff of the Senate and we took that out because right now what this legislation is focusing on is the Senate. It's a Senate rule for Senate members. Much of what was in some of those bills is in these rules. But as I said, in order for a rule to be adopted or a law to be passed, it has to be studied and has to be done correctly. So this is the beginning. There'll probably be some changes to this, and hopefully we'll come out with something that accomplishes what we want to accomplish, but also does not go crazy and make what good people can't serve.
I hope this isn't too overly argumentative, but you know, if this is supposed to be the Senate or Arkansas should take the Senate seriously, that they're going to investigate themselves with this body, it seems like you guys are reluctant to vocally speak out against people who have admitted to crimes or Senator Hutchinson. You know, so why should we be confident that moving forward you guys will be champions of these rules?
Well, I'm not going to speak for everybody up here on what degree of calling out we should do of each other's members on certain behavior. What I'm focusing on is what are the rules for the Senate going to be? And the rules of the Senate apply, we have to remember, not in a specific case, but in every case, so they have to be.
Well, but